The death of third places. But what is a third place? People complain a lot about modern society and its discontents, but the conversation often steers back to the absence of third places in the modern world. I've heard this term a lot on the internet, across Reddit, YouTube, 4chan, maybe Hacker News, that there's nowhere to meet people outside anymore, and that the third places have all gone away. Well, then what is a third place? And actually, what is a second place? And is there a first place? I think that this is a major problem for Gen Z and Gen Alpha, by the way, so yeah, let's get into it. This concept of the three places, that is, the first place, the second place, and the third place, was coined by Ray Oldenburg, a sociologist, in his 1989 book, The Great Good Place. Essentially, the first place is home, the second place is work or school, and the third place is some public community place like a park, a church, or a social club, or a mall. This can also be explained as your private space, first, the place you go to be productive, second, and then recreational community places, third. All three place types may or may not exist for any given person. A homeless person won't have a first place or a second place, at least in my mind, and maybe they sleep in a park, which means they don't have a home and they don't have a job, but they sleep in the third place. A jobless World of Warcraft player who lives in their parents' basement will have a first place but no proper second or third place because they have a home but they don't have a job and they don't have a real, physical place in the real world that they go out and they socialize with people. As I'm going to get into, the internet seems to have destroyed third places. People treat Discord servers and Instagram Reels as third places, like you send Instagram Reels to your buddies. I don't know if you've done that. I've been in these silly DM things, you send Reels back and forth. But it's not really a third place. It's like a fake third place. And in the real world, arcades are shutting down, record stores are dead, and community centers are on life support. It's pretty sad. Let's define the third place a little bit better. So there's 8 characteristics of a third place as outlined by Ray Oldenburg. Here's an excerpt. Neutral ground. Third places are neutral grounds where individuals are free to come and go as they please with little obligation or entanglements with other participants. Leveler. Third places are spaces in which an individual's rank and status in the workplace or society at large are of no import. Acceptance and participation is not contingent on any prerequisites, requirements, rules, duties, or proof of membership. Conversation as main activity. In third places, conversation is a main focus of activity on which playfulness and wit are collectively valued. Accessibility and accommodation. Third places must be easy to access and are accommodating to those who frequent them. The regulars. Third places include a cadre of regulars who attract newcomers and give the space its characteristic mood. A low profile. Third places are characteristically homely and without pretension. The mood is playful. The general mood in third places is playful and marked by frivolity, verbal wordplay, and wit. They're not high pressure. A home away from home. Third places are home-like in terms of Simon's 5 defining traits. Rootedness, feelings of possession, spiritual regeneration, feelings of being at ease, and warmth. So I mentioned earlier that people often use internet forums and digital spaces as like fake third places. Think VR chat, streamers, streamer chat rooms, YouTube comment sections, MMORPGs, things like that. But the real original definition of a third place is somewhere to socially unwind in the physical world. It evokes to me some old 1970s American TV shows. In Cheers, the whole show is set in a pub. There's regular barflies like Norm that give the pub its character. This is an attribute of third places, by the way, is that there should be regulars there. Then there's the staff of the pub, of course, and they're kind of like regulars, but they work there. And the pub is fairly cozy to look at and be in. And there's the regular casual customers as well, of course, the ones that aren't there constantly. In Happy Days, Richie Cunningham and the Fonz would hang out at restaurants a lot. The Fonz would have his motorcycle out front that he would show off to the girls. The characters would hang out together and gossip about life. Happy Days is set in the 1950s, Cheers is set in the 80s. There's lots of these sorts of slice-of-life comedy shows and movies that have been made in the States. American Graffiti, Dazed and Confused, Everybody Wants Some, American Pie, and Grease. These all show Americans in third places. Sometimes house parties, sometimes pool holes, sometimes football fields or campgrounds. People would bring a truck and a keg of beer and make a meetup out of anything. Or they would hang out at the roller disco or the skating rink. Some of these places fit the definition of a third place better than others. Like the bringing a barrel of beer and like putting it in the bed of a truck. That's like kind of a weird third place, but to me it's kind of abstractly. kind of fits the definition, but anyways. In Seinfeld, Jerry's apartment sometimes served as a third place where his friends would come over, but they also hung out at the diner on the corner. In How I Met Your Mother, the gang would hang out at a pub and talk to each other for hours and think up challenges for each other, like challenging Barney at how many phone numbers he could get in a night. Of course, a lot of these examples are from American TV shows, but you can see third places in Japanese media as well, like the Junes Cafeteria in Persona 4. In that game, it's an anime video game, it's an RPG. It's this group of teenagers, they're in high school together, but they hang out at this supermarket cafeteria after school. You would probably see, like, kids hanging out at the arcade and Power Rangers or something as well. It's a worldwide phenomenon. As technology progresses and people become more isolated, around the world I would say even, third places are probably dying. Technology seems to be an isolating force. It's interesting. Technology seems to kind of rot and like decay at society. It's interesting. As a millennial from a small white conservative town, I've definitely noticed how third places have vanished. They were definitely more popular in the 90s. I had church daycare, a rock climbing class, a swimming class, and a youth group I would go to as a kid. But I also had a Game Boy and a Nintendo 64 and a PC, so I would just sit at the TV for 8 hours per day as a kid. Anyways, instead of talking about myself too much, I want to look at what Redditors have to say about the concept of third spaces. So this thread is, what third spaces have we lost? Video arcades, I worked at one in college. Now they're just a nostalgic novelty. Video rental stores, some days we'd spend as much time deciding on what to rent as we did watching or playing it. That's pretty cool. Personally, I used to spend like 6 hours looking for games in the GameStop, which I don't think they appreciated, but yeah, I would spend loads of time just walking around the game store. That's pretty nostalgic. So someplace where everybody knows your name. I think that's a line from Cheers. But yeah, basically. I promise I'm not trying to be a jerk here, but many of the third places are lost to those who are unhoused and drug addicts. I can't take my kids to some public places, libraries, playgrounds, walking paths, because they've been taken over and are unsafe. I think that's true. I will say that yes, if there's a safety issue with the third space you want to go to, like the libraries becoming unsafe, then yeah, it's gonna stop becoming a third place for people, and then people are gonna wonder, like, what happened, because it happened slowly. It happened over 20 or 30 years, but yeah, that's what happens, and it's interesting, yeah, people don't notice. If it takes like 40 years for the library to become destroyed, then they don't notice, but that's kind of how it happens. Here's a different thread. What are the third places that used to exist? The mall. I used to spend hours walking around the local mall, bumping into people I knew and hanging around for a while. Yeah, I loved hanging out at the mall. There's a mall where I live, and outside of the Christmas season, it's a ghost town usually. The malls did what they could to keep the kids out and somehow failed to realize that without those kids they look abandoned. As recently as 2010, the mall in my old town was still a popular destination for the area's kids, not having hardly any other options in town. I don't think America's really caught up to the fact that our entire mentality of where children belong and what children are allowed to do in public is put children in basements with their head in their phone or their internet or TV. Children have literally no safe space to hang out. That means that unless your parents have money to give you or you can go to a paid activity location, you're never going to have friends or be active. Kids can't even play outside anymore without people harassing them. Oh yeah, and then there's this, back in my day we played outside. But now it's, George, call the cops, there's kids outside. A teen center, I used to go to those when I was a teenager. I like those, they're pretty cool. McDonald's used to be a place you just go to talk to friends or something, but it's too expensive to casually go every so often with friends, especially as a teen. These days McDonald's are empty and the chain focuses more on drive-thru and mobile orders. Public parks used to have events. My city used to display the local college's student art and music performances just because. Roller rinks are something I personally miss the most. Last few McDonald's I've been inside had signs saying 30-minute limit against loitering. I doubt most employees would care enough to enforce it, but the hostility against just hanging around is unpleasant. Kids used to have the run of their neighborhood. Their third places were everything from the city street in an urban area to some backwoods between farms in a rural area. For the most part, kids aren't allowed and generally aren't interested in those places. They become domesticated and sedentary. For adults, there were bars, parks, fields, backrooms, and warehouses and industrial plants, and courtyards between apartment blocks. Those places have either been outlawed, abandoned, or turned into paid entry venues. When I was a kid in the 90s, there would just be a huge group of teenagers hanging out downtown across the street from Burger King in our little town square, like up to 50 kids every single night. And if you walked around town, there would just be packs of kids riding around on skateboards, bikes, etc. Nowadays, you don't see that at all. It's like a ghost town. Huh. COVID had some effect on the modern situation for sure. Until the pandemic, I was part of a billiards team and league. During lockdown, every pool hall we played at went out of business and never reopened. Now there's just the occasional crappy, non-regulation bar table with drunk people and subpar felt. For the geeks, there was the comic book store. I agree, but I always felt weird about going into them because they probably want you to buy something, so I always felt like I want to go there, but they're going to want me to buy something, so I'm not going to go in there because they're going to get mad eventually if I don't buy things, so I don't personally treat the comic book store like a third place. Hacky sack circles and popular parks? Man, it was a great way to chill with random people. Okay. I had friends that played hacky sack. I don't know if I got in a circle, but I've tried hacky sack with friends before. Yeah, it's fun. What is your third place? The gym. I like going to the gym, yeah. I find it's not a third place, though. People don't really talk to each other. It is probably a third place, but most of the ones I go to are fairly, like, narcissistic places. They don't really fit the definition of an unassuming, nice place. I guess it would be thrift stores. I hate going to the grocery store or Walmart. Same old stuff, nothing I find is something I can afford. But at the thrift store, you never know what you're gonna get. There's usually something I can find that I like for under $10. Going and looking around is free except for the gas. It takes time to look around and gets us out of the house. Cheap entertainment. Yeah, I agree. I like thrift stores. The yoga studio. Yeah, I think that's a third place. That's good. Okay. What happened to third spaces? Yeah, I hate it. There's nowhere to go to do anything. No one wants to go out, and if I do go out, beers are literally $10 each and they expect a tip. I've tried over and over again to do stuff with people and no one ever wants to do anything. We're slowly killing all social connection and it drives me crazy. I totally agree. I'm not extroverted either, but I'm really starting to miss that connection with other people, and every time I try to go somewhere to meet people or just hang out, I'm expected to fork over like $25, which as a college student I can't really do on a regular basis. What happened to third spaces? Nothing happened to them. They're still there as much as YouTube and Reddit talks about them disappearing. It's not true. What happened is that there's less people in those third places now. Society's turned into mini islands of people consuming entertainment independently at home. People used to be bored because there was only so many radio stations and non-fiction stories and TV channels available during narrow sets of time. That boredom translated to people loitering about in third places in higher numbers. Now we're in the spiral of, I don't go in public spaces because there's no one normal in public. And because fewer normal people are in public spaces, the ratio of creeps and dangerous people is too much. And I don't go in public spaces because there's no one normal in public spaces. Internet hobby groups tend to be very vapid and dissolve too quickly. Yeah, I think internet hobby groups are whack. I feel bad saying it, but it's not the same as just like having friends in real life. It's all about the warm approach, by the way. If you don't have any friends, it's kind of hard to force yourself to get friends or to force people to become your friend. You kind of have to slowly get into a community, and then people recognize your face, and then you slowly become accepted by them. If you ever have tried to romantically get involved with someone, you might know about the cold approach and the warm approach. The cold approach is difficult because you don't even know them, probably, and whatnot. But the warm approach, at least you know them, and maybe they recognize you, and maybe you've talked before and stuff, so it's easier to make friends or start a relationship with them. But I was talking kind of like romantic relationships, but when it comes to making friends, if you have no friends, I recommend being in public enough that people start to recognize you, and then they'll start to talk to you. You don't seem like the stranger. People just recognize you and they want to talk to you. Also, this is a different thread and kind of unrelated, but anyways, I want to read this. I opened a coffee and donut shop about 2 years ago that has become a third space for our community. There's different theme nights, including Bring Your Own Craft Night, Vinyl Night, and Trivia. Our biggest night is a weekly Blood on the Clock Tower game that averages nearly 20 middle and high schoolers each week. We have book clubs, church groups, non-profits, and D&D groups that come in frequently to use the space. And this guy says it sounds amazing, which it does sound amazing. Anyways, I'm gonna go back to the main whatever now, away from Reddit now. I like the D&D thing that people talk about, by the way. There's kind of a risk with getting into the nerd stuff because you might become too absorbed in the lore and the universe. But if you're not the bar or the nightclub type, I think that playing D&D or Magic the Gathering or Warhammer is kind of a cool idea. Just watch out that the comic book people don't get you to start watching 1,000 episodes of One Piece, which could literally take up 500 hours of your life. These are some ideas anyways. There's also other factors to think about, like gatekeeping of hobbies and identity politics that you might have to tangle with if you go to some places. But I'm not going to get into that. I don't want to make this video too political. I'm trying to be very neutral about this. If you want to become more social and to find more third places to spend time in, I would recommend kind of unhooking a little bit from the technology hydra. I think that the technology hydra is kind of, it's part of the problem, you know? So I recommend going outside more, getting off the computer a little more, checking your social media a little less, hanging out with family more. I also recommend you should probably send texts or spend time with your family on their birthdays or the holidays if possible. It's difficult when you're in the big city though, I understand. I also think that big cities are inherently weird places. I wouldn't want to raise a family in Tokyo or New York or Los Angeles personally. I wouldn't trust people. I don't really trust big city people. As Oldenburg himself said, walkable cities and mixed zone areas are good places for third places to prosper. Because of how property values are lower in smaller towns and the laws are less advanced and there's less crime, I think that people are less afraid all the time. They're less kind of neurotic and on edge, and they kind of are like hallucinating less, you know. And they're more likely to spend more time socializing because they're not on edge. The small towns are inherently more relaxing, to me, in my opinion. I think that that is a truism, but I could be wrong. Anyways, those were some thoughts on the whole third places concept. I hope you liked the video. Maybe check out a Oldenburg book. I don't know, The Great Good Place, 1989. I haven't read it, but if you're interested in the subject, it might be useful. Thanks for checking out the video. Take care.